Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy. And thanks for joining us today, October 7th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, of course, today the big celebration is Our Lady of Victory, also known as Our Lady of the Rosary. It's the Feast of the Most Holy Rosary, right? We can say that the origins of this feast go back until like the second half of the 15th century, because you have old confraternities of the Rosary, right? For instance, there was one founded at Douai in France by the Dominican Alain de la Roche. He died in 1475, and he was the one who practically gave the Rosary its structure, like as it comes down to us now, right? It was on October 7th, 1571, that Christian navies under Admiral Don John of Austria wiped out a huge Ottoman naval invasion in the Battle of Lepanto near Greece. The Christians were carrying a painting of the Guadalupe painting. Guadalupe, I don't know if that's Our Lady of Guadalupe. Maybe there's a Guadalupe in Spain, right? And they were praying the Rosary. As a result, thousands of Christian galley slaves were freed from the Turks, and the battle was one of the most important, and the West struggled to resist Islamic imperialism and was the first major Turkish defeat. Volunteers from all over the West had joined together to repel a catastrophic threat of invasion. Hence, Pope Pius, I'm assuming this is Pius V, declared October 7th as the feast day of Our Lady of Victory. In 1573, Pope Gregory XIII changed the title to Our Lady of the Rosary, authorizing the celebration in churches with an altar dedicated to the Rosary. The feast was extended to all of Spain in 1671 by Clement X, and on August 6th, 1716, Prince Eugene of Savoy defeated a much larger invading Ottoman army at Peterwarden in Hungary. The victory set the stage for the reconquest of Hungary from the Turks. In gratitude, Pope Clement XI ordered the Feast of the Rosary to be celebrated worldwide. Popes Benedict XIII and Leo XIII further elevated the feast, making it a double of the second class. So it's very important. So for both reasons, it's Our Lady of the Rosary, but also Our Lady of Victory. And so that explains why also you have a lot of different celebrations throughout the world. For instance, in the Rosary Chapel in Medellin, in Colombia, they celebrate Nuestra Señora del Rosario de la Piedra. In Talpa de Allende, in Jalisco, Mexico, they celebrate Virgen del Rosario de Talpa. In the Church of St. Patrick in Lorca, Murcia, in Spain, La Virgen de la Aurora de Lorca, which is not particularly related to the Rosary, but that's okay. They also celebrate Notre Dame de Victoire in Lorient, Morbihan in Brittany, France. The English siege ended in 1746. Also, we celebrate Matka Boska Laskawa in Warsaw, Poland, the Gracious Mother of God. She is the patroness of Warsaw. That painting was solemnly crowned in 1973. Likewise, we celebrate the Mar de Dieu del Remei in Petrer, Alicante, Valencia, Spain. The statue was found hidden in a church wall at the request of a visiting friar in 1630. So this is her feast day today. And last but not least, we are told that today they celebrate the anniversary of the dedication of the shrine of Our Lady of Peace in Santa Clara, California. That dedication took place in 1983. So that's what we're celebrating today in the Marian world on October 7th. For today's reading from True Devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary by St. Louis de Montfort, we continue with Part 1 on devotion to Our Blessed Lady in general, and Section 2, Discernment of the True Devotion to Our Blessed Lady, 5 Fundamental Truths Presupposed. And today we consider the beginning of the 5th truth, which starts at point 87. It is very difficult, considering our weakness and frailty, to preserve in ourselves the graces and treasures which we have received from God. And then he's going to give us multiple points. These are 3 points as to why this is the case. First, because we have this treasure, which is worth more than heaven and earth put together, in frail vessels, habemus tusorum instorn in vasis ficitibilis, in a corruptible body, and in a weak and inconstant soul, which a mere nothing disturbs and dejects. Number 88, and this is point 2, because the devils, who are skillful thieves, wish to surprise us unawares and to strip us. They watch day and night for a favorable moment. For that end they go round about us incessantly to devour us, and to snatch from us in one moment, by a sin, all that we have gained of graces and of merits for many years. Their malice, their experience, their stratagems, and their number ought to make us fear immensely this misfortune, especially when we see how many persons, fuller of grace than we are, richer in virtues, better founded in experience, and far higher exalted in sanctity, have been surprised, robbed, and unhappily pillaged. How many of the cedars of Lebanon, how many of the stars of the firmament have we not seen to fall miserably, and in the twinkling of an eye to lose all their height and all their brightness? Whence comes that sad and curious change? It has not been for want of grace, for grace is wanting to no man, but it has been want of humility. They thought themselves stronger and more sufficient than they were. They thought themselves capable of guarding their own treasures. They trusted in themselves, leaned upon themselves. They thought their house secure enough and their coffers strong enough to keep the precious treasures of their grace. It is because of that scarcely sensible leaning upon themselves, while all the while it seemed to them that they were leaning only on the grace of God, that the most just Lord has permitted them to be robbed by leaving them to themselves. Alas! If they had but known the admirable devotion which I will unfold presently, they would have confided their treasure to a virgin, powerful and faithful, who would have kept it for them as if it had been her own possession. Nay, who would have even taken it as an obligation of justice on herself to preserve it for them. And then we have point 89, and this is the third reason why we get robbed of grace, right? It is difficult to persevere in justice because of the strange corruption of the world. The world is now so corrupt that it seems to be inevitable that religious hearts should be soiled, if not by its mud, at least by its dust. So that it has become a kind of miracle for anyone to remain firm in the midst of this impetuous torrent, without being drawn in by it, in the midst of that stormy sea without being drowned in it, or stripped by the pirates and the corsairs, in the midst of that pestilent air without being infected by it. It is the Virgin, alone faithful, in whom the serpent has never had part, who works this miracle for those who serve her, in that sweet way which I have shortly to unfold.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.